Recording in progress.
Okay, call public hearing on the 2026 preliminary budget hearing order. I'll talk for a while and people can ask questions. So, one of the things people always ask, I start these meetings off with, is how revenue works. All of you probably got your tax paperwork in the mail here in the last few weeks. Your property values probably jumped way up. But what happens is the town, that's not going to be a real reflection of what you're actually paying because they haven't set those values yet. So what they do is your mills go up and down with mill value with your taxable value. So if your house jumped $100,000 in value, that doesn't mean your property tax is going to go up incrementally. So what we see probably is maybe at the max a 5% increase. So the town's not going to see a lot of that money. What they do is the mill becomes more valuable, they give you less mills, and that's how it works. So don't be panicked about that. And then the town, on our revenue, like last year, on real property taxes, we took in $185,862 in property taxes. Is what we took in. Then there's some other local options taxes and stuff for a total of $229,586. That's what we took in last year in property taxes. So property taxes, that goes to the general fund. So that pays for, and we'll go over this, administration, law enforcement, fire department, court.
I turned off your 7:44 p.m.
Pays
alarm
for,
starting today.
so the streets and pays for that. So the general fund, $229,000. That's how we have to spend. So we're going to talk tonight about parks or a skate park or whatever we talk about. Remember, there's only $229,000 roughly to spend. Now we're going to get an increase, but legitimately we're budgeting around 244 is about where we think we're going to be. And like I said, that's a guess until the state comes up with those numbers later this month. And then you gotta remember these numbers are always when everyone pays their taxes. So there's a lot of places that don't pay, they're behind, we get them in the future and stuff like that. So those are some of those things on the revenue side. So we'll go ahead and continue down through the revenue. As I said, the general fund, last year we budgeted 242, we received 229,586. This year we're going to budget 244,500. So that's going to be a little up from last year. Hopefully we received that much. Next will be licenses and permits. Last year we took in about 3,226. So we budgeted 3,100. Licenses and permits are for your alcohol, zoning compliance, subdivision, animal licenses, that type of stuff. Interlocal government revenues, which is going to be some DNRC grants. There are going to be some state entitlement share. There's some different things that come in through some different things into the general fund. Last year was $76,394. There was a couple of grants in there that we aren't going to get this year, of course. So we dropped that down to $70,033 in revenue. Charges for services. So that's like the weed control. We charge the rural fire department to park their trucks in this building. Animal control fees, that type of stuff. Last year we took in $934. We budgeted $2,100. Fines and forfeitures is under city court. So we took in city court last year $4,435. Budget $6,000. With more officers on the street and court's kind of interesting because even if it happened last year, they still got fined yet or they haven't paid. So that kind of juggles just a little bit, so those monies will come in. And just to back up just a little bit on the, so on, you might see if you look back, we got some pretty big numbers in years past, but I'm just this court is catching up on some of their money transfers. So with the state of Montana, so that's why it goes from there. Miscellaneous revenue, so it's just things come in from different weird things. So maintenance assessments. So when you past employees can stay on some of our healthcare insurance, so they're paying for it. That comes as a miscellaneous. There's some miscellaneous like the fire department revenue from different things, any rents or leases or anything like that. Last year we brought in 11,592. This year we plan on bringing in 12,850. Investment royalties, interest rates skyrocketed. So for instance, that's money, we have to leave money sitting in certain accounts by law and by our loan guarantees that we can't touch. So those end up earning money because they're sitting there. In 2022 fiscal year, we took in $701. That's roughly that same amount of money sitting in those accounts. This year, budget year, took in $9,545. So that's just the difference in interest rates. We're going to budget around $10,000 for that. I don't see interest rates going up. They're actually going to back up. I'm going to guess interest rates are probably going to drop just a little. But we budgeted $10,000 for that. With a total in the general fund, last year we brought in $336,153. We budgeted $340,161. This year we're going to budget $349,083 with some of those incomes going up. That's in the general fund. Parks and Recreation has its own fund, so when they do fundraisers and stuff, it actually is put in a separate account for them. Last year they brought in $886, and so we budgeted $2,500 for them to library. Taxes, library brought in let's do the whole group of taxes. Library brought in $60,660 last year because of the bill increases and stuff. They raised their budget to $67,045. They have some other internal revenue they get on behalf of the library, state library, and some reimbursements there. That brought in $5,389 last year. They don't feel they're going to get quite as much, so they dropped their that down to $4,623 is what they budgeted for this year. Miscellaneous charges, so when they charge for copies or any of that sort of stuff, they brought in $781. They dropped that down to $700 as their this year's line item budget. Miscellaneous revenue, so that's part of their private grants, summer reading donations, private gifts, anything like that. Last year, they brought in $7,010, and they had budgeted $4,800 actually, and this year they kept their budget the same, $4,800. They just had a benefactor give a little extra. They don't feel that's going to happen again. So last year, the 2025, the library brought in $73,840. They're going to raise their budget to $77,163. Fire department transport has another separate fund, so the fire department's ambulance, we charge when we go out, and we take anybody, or if we go to a rodeo or a motocross or any of that, we charge, the ambulance charges to be there, and that money goes into the transport fund. And that money actually gets used to do all the maintenance and equipment and everything on that vehicle. So that's why the charge is there. Ambulances are inherently very expensive. The equipment on them is expensive, and it all has a shelf life. Right down to the gauze has a shelf life, so we have to throw that away, buy new. Even though gauze is gauze, but by state law we have to do that. So it's very expensive to run. Last year we took in $6,755, and the budget this year is $6,600. Street lighting. So long before me, probably over 30 years ago, the town did a street lighting deal. Street lights last year. So you're charged by the square footage of street frontage. So if you only own a 25-foot lot in the middle of a block, you get charged for 25 feet. My business down here actually fronts 3 streets. I pay for Broadway, Spring Street, and Main Street. I pay 3 signs. I pay for 250 feet or 275 feet of street lights. So that's just how that's done. And that's going to bring in about $8,500. And last year brought in 7941, and that pays the bill on the street lights. Police training, that comes from the state of Montana. It's some money through drug forfeiture and stuff that comes in. Last year, $1,011. This year, we budgeted $785. Gas tax, this is the money this pays for the streets. So gas tax, every time you fill up your tank in the state of Montana, you charge the state of Montana tax. That then is divided up between all the towns in the state of Montana by how many roads they have. The road and alleys, drivable. So what happens, this is where there's some controversy coming, is because the more people that have electric cars, the less you have a gas tax. The more people that don't drive and ride bikes and all that, the less you have a gas tax. I hate to tell you, the bike trails are paid with gas tax. So how, if everyone cuts out fuel, the state needs to figure out a different way to pay for that stuff. So the other problem with it is the town of Hot Springs isn't really growing any roads. For Missoula, Billings, Polson, all those towns are growing. So the more roads they get, the more they take out of that pie. So
Does it matter if they're gravel or paved, is that,
just so it's drivable.
okay?
Yep, they take
Just
it
drivable.
Yep. So they come around, I get a map every year, I make sure it's accurate. And if we've added anything, like we added that little chunk of alley down here on the end of town, you add that to it, and at some point they come around and drive it.
So like when we get the subdivision, that will.
That'll pay for, that'll go on that, yeah, so whatever. Yeah, just so it's drivable. So anytime we have fixed an alley up or extended anything, and it's actually drivable, then that can be paid for. So last year, we brought in $104,775 in gas tax money, because we did some transfers, so that number's a little wrong there. We budgeted $45,000 this year, is what roughly we're gonna get. So what we did is, we've been saving money to do projects. We did that street projects, we're saving money to do that. So that's why we had a little bit built up, and then we transferred it and spent it. But that money is the money we use on the streets, so whether we're plowing, fixing potholes, doing the gravel along the edges, that type of stuff. There's a sidewalk fund in here. You probably heard me talk about this for the last over a year. We got a sidewalk grant through the state of Montana for $1.54 million, so it's $1,537,809. And that's still in the planning stage in the state of Montana. So the state, through the Department of Transportation, is overseeing it, and they're in the engineering phase. They'll probably be in the design phase this winter. Maybe they'll go to bid next summer. We don't know. The state's projecting 2029 is when they're going to do sidewalks. Hopefully they get it done quicker than that, but that's the state projection on that. And just anyone who never heard or whatever, the sidewalks are going to be more on the north side of town, and they're kind of connecting the tourist areas back to Main Street. That was this grant we went for. The next one will try to go on the south side of town, connecting back up. The idea is part of the safe routes to schools, tourism. There's like 3 different pots that the state kind of pulls out of through federal money to do the sidewalk stuff. So that's why it's kind of done. So once we get this one done, we'll go after it again, but you gotta get one done before you can do it again, and it just takes a long time with the state involved. So that's the end of the general fund. We're moving into the water fund. So the water fund, water and sewer funds are their own separate enterprise funds. They don't take any tax money. Not allowed to actually, and nor can they give money out of that to the general fund unless it's for a purpose. In here we do take some money. The water and sewer departments pay some of the O&M on this building because they have an office in here, so they help with some electricity, insurance, that type of stuff. So water revenue under metered services, last year was $237,887. This year's budget's gonna be about $240. And then we have bulk water sales, sale of water materials, water turn-on fees, new water connection fees, service charges, that type of stuff, for a total in the water charges for services of $246,543, and we budgeted this year $255,500. Investment royalties, they brought in $3,874. We know interest rates are gonna slide back just a little, so we budgeted 3,500. For a total fund, last year brought in 250,417 in the water fund. We budgeted 259 this year. Sewer fund, same thing. These funds have to support themselves. Sewer revenue last year, just the sewer charges, 191,235. We're going to budget 195 this year. And then sewer connections, service charges, delinquency, new connections, all that added in. First, come to 196,155. We budgeted 205,500. Investment royalties, 4,209. We budgeted 4,000. For a total of the fund, 364 is what we made last year. We're going to budget 209,500 this year. Sewer project. So we're moving into a new sewer project. We're going to replace the liners and at the lagoons. So we just finished a blower project. That's gonna be the first one we're going to look at here.
Yeah, that's a blower project.
Is the blower project. So what happened, the blower project got done in June, but now the paperwork got done, so it fell over into this fiscal year. So what they did at the lagoons, we have 3 great big blowers that blow air into the water of the lagoons to keep the bacteria growing, deter algae growth, and different things like that. So what we did is we got a grant to replace all the electrical out there. So they rewired the whole building, new lights, new heaters, new blowers, new control panels, new everything in there. That budget for that was 137, and we spent 13,612 prior to the budget rollover, and our preliminary budget is going to be 123,388, which we're going to spend that because we have to pay them now. It just fell over our fiscal year of July 1, so that's all done. And we're just doing the final payouts. Second sewer project that we're just going into is the sewer lagoon rehab. Sewer lagoons were put in 1983. They have a useful life of about 20 to 25 years. We're 42 years into our lagoons. So we have, liner failures are pretty constant. So far they've been above the water line, so the guys are able to fix them. We are having some blower issues and some stuff like that. So the project's going to go in and remove, in our lagoons, about 2 to 2.5 feet of sludge is about max what we can have to keep the water level over, to keep the bacteria growing and all that. We're at that now. So they'll come in, they'll remove all the sludge, they'll remove the liners, remove the blower hardware, and then replace all that. So that project is $4.1 million. And we got some state grant help with that, and then we went to rural development, to the USDA, and they gave, I had that in front of me. I'll just give you the exact numbers where.
For what?
How much was granted, how much did we give today? I had that in front of me. Oh, right here. So rural development, so we went out to the state of Montana through some different funds for grants, and we received $875,000. We have to contribute $26,000 of town money in that $875,000. So some of those weren't full 100% grants, they were a match. So the town has to pay $26,000 towards that $875,000. The rural development, then we went to them for the rest of the money, and they gave us, the rural development gave us a grant for $2,959,000. So the town's loan through rural development is going to be $240,000, and that is a 40-year loan. So that equates down to a pretty small amount. We have about 440 users, so you start figuring that out, it's pretty small. And we're still working on that and looking at that. Right now, the rates we're charging are pretty close. We're going to have to, when we get all the budget money in and everything, look at that, we're going to look at that a little closer, but we're probably going to have to do a small rate increase, but we might not. We're still looking at that, so just so everyone knows what's going on there. So we're just starting, we're going into the design phase on that project right now. That'll of course be designed through the winter, and then go out to bid and stuff on that. Okay, any questions on revenue?
There was a sewer line replacement project a while back. Was that like 2003?
We've had lots of them.
Okay, 'cause at one-
2003 was like the water though.
At one meeting, Amy said, we still are paying on, and I don't know which one she remembered.
We're still paying on the one that we just did a couple of years ago where we did the lift station and all new valving in between the lagoons and some line replacements. So they replaced line from the bathhouse down to the main service connection. They replaced a bunch of manholes along the creek. They lined a bunch of line up on the hill, like just below the nursing home. They lined those lines and we did some lining and some cleaning on the Main Street extension down onto Main Street. But that was 5, 6 years ago, whatever that was, we're paying on that one. The older ones we've paid off.
Okay, no.
Yeah.
And then I have a question, just in general, what comes under the umbrella of DNRC?
Department of Natural Resources.
Yeah.
But that could be, and that's where sometimes it gets confusing. In our Department of Natural Resources can be fire, but also it can be, we just got grant money from them for actually the sewer project.
Yes.
Some of that sewer project money, that 875,000 is from the DNRC. So just depends, the DNRC is a very wide umbrella.
That's a,
Department of Natural Resources, so it's all over. And we do get grants from them on the fire side, we got some from the sewer side, you know, we've got some different things, so. Anything else on revenue? If not, we'll move into expenditure. So on the expenditure then, we're gonna talk about general fund first here. So under legislative services, last year, that's legislative services is salaries and pay to the council. It was 5,116. We budgeted 5,615. We're gonna leave that alone. We'll budget 5,615. There's some travel and stuff that's in there that just didn't use last year. Executive service is my pay, the mayor's pay. Last year was budgeted 10,126, so we spent 10,127. There was a couple extra little expenses in there. The new budget would be $10,113, it's a little lower. City municipal court, so that's gonna include salaries for the judge, the partial attorney, the court clerk, and that stuff. We spent 19,160, we budgeted 22,450. This year, the preliminary budget's 22,568. Administration, so that's administration, so that's anyone taking care of the office here and dealing with police, fire, and that. So you have salaries, percentage of that, like the clerk, her salary is split between multiple different line items here, and we'll talk about that. So her salary, office expenses, taxes, utility services, software maintenance, computer network fees, audit. The audit is broke up between multiple agencies, so is the computer stuff. So some of these are broken up and paid for out of multiple things. Insurance, property insurance, liability insurance, all that comes out of here. Last year, we spent 31,124. We budgeted 40,860. And we know that our audit and our insurance are both going to take a jump. So we budgeted 46,497. Elections, we know we're going to have elections. We budgeted $4,000. Legal services, the town attorney comes out of a couple different spots. That's $7,200. We budgeted $12,000 and he got a pay raise, so we're budgeting $15,500. And we know we have some trials coming up, so our contract with him is just the basic so many hours to take care of day-to-day operations. So when we start doing trials or anything like that, or we have a problem where he has to spend extra time, like reviewing contracts or something like that that are big, like USDA contracts and stuff like that, he has to sign off on them. He charges a little extra. So with these bigger projects going on, he has to be involved, so that's why the pay increase. Facilities administration, back to like the city shop and stuff like that, so you have utilities, you have maintenance, contracted services, when you hire engineers or anything like that, repairs and maintenance, insurance, property insurance, any capital outlay, which there is none right now. So last year, we spent $29,017. We budgeted $45,000. And we have some projects, and we know some, like utilities, taking a jump. The city shop is pretty expensive to operate in power and stuff. So we're gonna jump that to $49,500 for some of those raised expenses. Law enforcement. So that law enforcement includes salaries, includes supplies, clothing, firearms, repair and maintenance, the vehicles, fuel, miscellaneous equipment, parts, purchase services for miscellaneous stuff, utility services, the town attorney, computer network, any travel, training, other materials, and capital equipment. So last year, we spent $160,883. We had budgeted $221,659. We budgeted to buy a new car last year, and we just didn't do it. So there was $60,000 in capital improvement. This year's budget is $212,738. We're going to, some things that happened is we had to buy in one of the computer programs for the sheriff's office that does all the reporting, so they go in and write reports and stuff like that to the sheriff's office. Other officers can see it, the county attorney can see it. It's a link called ADSI, that links all that together. They can see what the deputies, if the deputies have been up here on a case or something, they can share that information. The county's been paying that bill 100%. They changed how they do that, now we have to pay a chunk of that. Also, there's a couple other computer programs that we've had to buy this last year, so that's up a little. One of the things we did do, we looked at the car. 60,000 buys a car easily, it does not outfit it. So I was kind of on the fence, whether to wait another year and save that money, or do we have enough money, put a little in there. And then Mineral County has some cars they're selling with moderate mileage, are gonna be in that 70,000 mile range, but they're 100% outfitted. They're ready to go. Radios and everything are staying in them. When we get up, the only thing we have to put in, I believe, is the radar unit or something like that. So it's all we have to put in. So all the lights, the radio, everything is cages, everything's staying in. I went over and looked at them. They're in good shape. They have good maintenance records. They take really good care of them. So that car will be roughly $20,000. But we went ahead and budgeted $35,000 towards that, just in case there's something that comes up with that. So that's why the budget's a little lower with the extra expenses in it. Fire protection. There's a little bit of salary pay out of there. There's repair, fuel, maintenance, purchases, utility services, contract services when we contract out things to be done, training, and that. So last year we spent $30,003. Last year's budget was $50,720, and we upped that a little to some expenses to $53,000. Moving on to road and street services. Mainly this one is just going to be material. We spent $56,302. We budgeted $60,000, and we'll leave that $60,000. Animal control. Last year we spent $3,594 in animal control. We had to put down some vicious dogs by court order. Last year we had budgeted $13,150 in that account because we talked about doing a dog park and different things. This year the preliminary budget is $3,700. Parks and Recreation, last year we spent $2,054 in the park. It had an $8,000 budget. We raised that budget this year to $10,500. And we've already spent part of that. It was one of the things at the last meeting was a little nicer looking shed in the park, so that got taken care of.
Looks good.
Shooting range, last year we spent $495 on it. We're gonna have to do some maintenance out there. There was actually no money budget last year for the shooting range, but it is time to do maintenance. So the shooting range, and the preliminary budget is $2,500 on it. The shooting range is also the old dump site. So that was a joint venture between the town of Hot Springs and the county. The town of Hot Springs owns the property, so we have to maintain the dump site. It is it's been a dump site, it'll be a dump site for eternity. So the Department of Environmental Quality has some standards and some things we have to do out there all the time to maintain the dump site. 2 feet of cover, can't have animals raised on it. There's just a long list of stuff we have to do. But over time, certain things like fencing and stuff will start to fall apart. So we're gonna do some fencing and do some stuff out there. So it's more maintenance type stuff out there is what we're looking at doing. Hasn't been done in a few years, so we're gonna go with that. So
Do you know what the current membership out at the shooting range is?
I have no idea. Yeah. Yeah, there's a Hot Springs Shooting Club, so they have a membership. You pay an annual dues to them. And then they change the lock once a year, so you pay the dues, you get a key, and you go out there once a year, then they change the lock, and you pay. So the town can't own a shooting range. We can own it, but we can't be in charge of it. Our insurance won't let us. So it has to be, a shooting club has to be a part of it. So when you have a shooting club, then the National Rifle Association will sell you liability insurance on the shooting range, which that was around about $800. I think he told me the other day that went around $1,200 a year.
Is that what they use their membership fees to
Yeah.
pay?
Yeah. And then they do some maintenance out there too. They do some like on the buildings and stuff. They've been fixing some of that stuff. So that's what they use that membership for, that money. And then the town's insurance will back that insurance up, but we can't be the primary. It has to be to a club or something like that. The NRA won't sell the town the insurance, so that's why it's that way. Last year under the general fund, we spent $355,075. Our budget last year was $492,580. This year, the town's budget would be $498,132. So just a small increase in that. Parks and Recreation spent, under their line item, they spent $77, so different things come out, different things.
Is that popcorn for the movie in the park?
Nope, all donated.
Their budget was $4,500, and their budget this year is $4,000. Library, so last year, under salaries, and then all their expenses, under there, so utilities, contract services, insurance, and all that. They spent $82,170. They budgeted $441. This year, they have budgeted $91,279. So they brought that down. They were a little inflated for some stuff the last couple of years, doing some stuff there. So.
Randy, when there's money left over that was budgeted this year or last year, does that roll over into the next year if there's money left over?
I should back up a little bit. Expenditure budget, all that is spending authority. This could be $100 million.
Okay.
It means the council approves for the town to spend $100 million. But this is your checkbook. So if you only have $200,000 in your checkbook, that's all you get to spend.
Okay.
So sometimes we budget things, or like the library, or like the ambulance transport, or some different things, anticipating grant revenue.
Okay.
If you don't get it, we can't spend it. Because you still have to, at the end of the year, we still have to have money in the bank, and we can't spend it. But you are right. So like if, like the police department, if we didn't spend that $60,000 on the vehicle, next year, that would still be there to add to or whatever we want to do on the capital improvement, so.
Okay.
So yeah, the money doesn't go away, it doesn't go back anywhere or nothing, and sometimes we move it around, or sometimes you have maybe, like a few years ago, we had a server crash. We budgeted, $1,000 for computer maintenance, and all of a sudden we need $6,000. So we took some money out of some different funds to make that up, so that's kind of, so that's why we kind of watch what we spend through the year, and then money left over does just roll over into that, but,
Okay, thank you.
so.
Also, the state of Montana requires you to budget to spend a certain amount of money. You have to put an expenditure budget together that says you're gonna spend this much money. It doesn't say you have to spend it, but you have to budget to spend it.
Okay.
So we're getting that tax money, so there's some capital improvement stuff in some of those line items when we talk about stuff, especially when we get to water and sewer, streets. Just like this last, the street project we did, ended up being over $200,000. But we've been saving for years for that project. That wasn't just a one-time thing, so that's why, we gotta save a few more years before we do another project, so. Moving on to fire department transport. Last year, the expenditures were $3,404. We had budgeted $13,500. This year, the budget's $20,650. We're gonna have to do some upgrades on the vehicle, and it's part of the beast. Street lighting. Last year, we spent $7,616. We budgeted $13,712. This year's budget will be $14,000. So if we add any more lights or they have to replace any or all that, that comes out of that money too, so it's kind of a guess. So we have, like the subdivision goes in, people start wanting street lights. We have to pay immediately for it, but they'll be paying too. Those have to be catch-up type things. So, I know like last year, we had some people on North Road in that area that asked for street lights added, so we put them in. Police training, this is the one the state of Montana gives some drug forfeiture money. Last year we spent $1,552. We had budgeted $3,500. So this year's budget's $3,500. Gas tax fund. So this is some salaries for the guys working on the streets. Also, it's for repairs and maintenance, fuel, that type of stuff. Last year we spent $243,679. We had budgeted $247,515. This year's budget will be $45,899 because we spent that savings, and that $45,899 is about what we're going to receive. That's why the number dropped back to where it's at. Sidewalk fund, with ARPA. So the ARPA money is going away. So coming back up, I can tell you. So the general fund, last year we spent $243,679. We budgeted to spend $249,014. No, that's wrong. I'm on the wrong page. No one knows it was. I can tell you the general fund was. Or did I?
You did.
You did.
I'll go on then.
And some of
Go to water fund. Water, so on the administration side is quite long, you have salaries. So Mike comes out of water and sewer. Tony comes out of water and sewer. Part of Amy's comes out of water and sewer. Part of the attorney comes out of there, and then of course insurance. So, Mark and Dan, a little bit of them. So Public Works all keeps a log. They have log sheets of what they do every day, and then we kind of go back and kind of generalize and kind of figure out kind of where they got money. We've been watching, tracking that. So that's where we kind of come up with, they get some out of this fund, some out of this fund, some out of this fund. We've kind of tracked where they spend their time in their daily log sheets. So So last year, we spent $138,519. We budgeted $166,867, and this year the budget will be $175,719. Source, supply, and pumping. So that's actual wells. We kind of keep them separate. So repair and maintenance, that's utility services, test costs, engineering services, capital outlays. Last year we spent $23,331. We budgeted $107,500, and this year it'll be $101,000. What we're looking at doing is on the source, supply, and pumping on the water system is putting in a generator. Is what we're looking at doing. We're still trying to find a supplier that'll work with us. It's been a real interesting deal. We even had them come out, look at the site, and then never give us a bid. It's been kind of a different thing. So when we get that, that's what we want to do though, is our well one, put a generator on, so we have an extended power on, which we can still keep pumping water.
Technically, I probably need to move that from the repair and maintenance supplies down to a capital outlay or capital
Okay.
machinery group, down to like a 900 or it's.
When we get to that, yeah. Transmission and distribution, that's actually pipes in the ground. Last year we spent $5,125, we budgeted $20,500. We'll leave that budget alone, $20,500. Revenue and bonds, sort of principal and interest.
So actually, why does that go up and down so much? That
Depends on what we're doing. So if we have a bunch of dig, if we have a break or
Okay.
a liner, if there's something like that. And then one of the things that we did a few years ago is, and that's probably the 23, 24, what we did is one of the problems was every time Mike went to do a job, he just had to order it, wait a week to get it and all that. So I told him to order everything to do a couple of jobs and have it in the shop. So that's why the 34,000 was more likely we had a major issue go on and we had to fix something. That's why that's there. So the revenue bonds, that's all done. The DNRC bond, it's $45,400 is the payment, so we jumped that to $46,000. So on the water fund, last year we spent $269,046, budget $351,867, and this year's budget $343,219. Water renovation, nothing done. Sewer fund. Back, same thing, administration, so salaries, office supplies, repair, printing, taxes, utility services, attorney fees, engineering fees, computer, travel, insurance, liabilities. So last year, we spent $138,993. We budgeted $175,067. We're going to raise that just a little, $182,720. Collection and transmission, that we spent $4,520. We budgeted $14,500. We dropped that to about $12,000. So that's collection, so that's actually the sewer lines under the ground. So we have, so far we've been having very little trouble with them. We have had some dig ups here lately, but those haven't been too bad. One of the big deals with them is having the new excavator and stuff. Kind of works out a little better, getting this stuff done. Treatment and disposal, so that's the lagoons lift station. We spent $15,122 last year. We budgeted $27,000. That's going to be about $18,000 this year. Hopefully we don't have any more repairs out there because a lot of it's new. Laboratory tests, those are just climbing. 12,410. We budgeted 11,000, so we raised the budget to 12,500. And we'll see, we're in a test mode right now with the EPA and the DEQ. The sewer lagoons come under EPA control because the reservation recognizes sewer treatment plants on the reservation, so it comes under EPA and the tribe. And what they're looking at, their new buzzword is ammonia. and it takes temperature to take ammonia out of the water. And we are not taking their ammonia out of the water, so they're tracking us right now. So down the road, we could have to somehow remove the ammonia from our water. So we're a small enough system. What that probably looks like for us is you dig a giant hole, like 10, 12 feet in the ground, fill it with boulders, and you put fabric over it and cover it with 4 feet, 5 feet of dirt. And then that water goes in there because the ground temperature will heat the water up. The bacteria can take the ammonia out and the water will come up the other end. That's probably what our system will look like. So ammonia is just hard to remove. It takes temperature. And that's about the only way to raise the temperature efficiently. So that's why all the testing, and then we're tracking with them. We'll see what they come up with. In the summertime, even in the summertime, on our tests, we're barely removing. So a little bit in July, August, and a little bit in September, we actually are underneath the EPA's ammonia limits. So I can just say it don't look good. The USDA loan on wastewaters, this is the previous project, was $24,840 was the payment. So that's what we budgeted to pay. For a total in the fund, we spent $196,110. Current budget is $251,567, and the preliminary budget is $276,060.
We do have 26,000 budgeted in there, that's our share of the wastewater project, so that was that other 26,000.
So we had to put that in there because that project is going to be started. And what happens on these projects is, it depends on where the money comes from, how it comes. Some of them we have to spend our money first before they'll kick their money in. So, yeah, it might only be, well, it's going to be 26,000, but it just depends on which project, which money it is. The sewer project, so far on the one we're carrying over there, we spent 103,440, budget 148. With our cost share and stuff, still budget 71,646. We haven't spent any of the $4 million yet. So. And that's the expenditure budget. Questions?
I have a question about the ammonia. You said it was like the new buzzword. What are they concerned about?
Ammonia?
Yeah, I mean, but what is the...
Ammonia, they claim it is aquatic life.
Okay.
Frogs, fish, that type
Okay.
of stuff.
So it's
So
environmental.
that's why they want to. And when they come over and look, what's interesting is we have frogs living. So the water comes out of we got 3 cells in the lagoon. So your dirty water goes into one cell, it's treated, it falls into cell 2, it's treated, falls into cell 3, treated, goes through a contact basin where we actually chlorinate it to kill any bacteria and stuff like that. And then it gets discharged into a small pond and then a little windy ditch before it goes to Hot Springs Creek. And we have bullfrogs living in that. They're the most susceptible to like chlorines and stuff like that, so they're living in our outflow. But we show that, we talk to them, they know that, but still they're getting someone in Denver looking at numbers on paper, so it's so that's ammonia. They look at, they have us test the water leaving the lagoon, the creek, and then we go down the bridge on Equine Road and test the water there too. And then we test 5 times a week on all that stuff, or not week, 5 times a week. So we're always testing and that. And we're meeting our permit requirements all the time, but they're just gonna keep tightening the requirements to us. So.
And this ammonia, one of the things that's kind of coming up and cropping up in a lot of areas, and is that related to more?
Yeah, ammonia's been in all of our waste forever. It's just one of the things they're now paying more attention to. It's not nothing new. It's just something now they're paying more attention to it because I'm gonna guess larger cities are putting way more of it in the system, dumping it in the rivers and creeks and stuff and hurting the aquatic life. So that's why they're tightening down on it. So, and every permit is to the facility. So that's why we're tracking it. They're coming out looking, they're looking at everything. they might not require us to do it, because every permit is for that site. It's, tailored to your site, so we'll just see how that ends up. We don't have a full permit, we're still in a temporary, I believe. And we have been for 2 years in temporary permit.
Yeah, we did all of our part, now they're just trying to figure out what they're gonna do about it.
So they're still deciding what to do on our permit. So we're still in a temporary permit. That was over 2 years ago, we got all the stuff. So, and they've been out and visited the site, and they're just watching, tracking the numbers now.
The guy can try to actually call us today, so ask for some stuff.
So they track that and see what the numbers are doing and see what the next project's gonna be. But sewer is a real big deal. And when I go to the legislature every 2 years and try to get money for the town for different projects, the last couple times I've been there for sewer. And like I explained to people is everyone's so worried about clean drinking water. The only way you're gonna keep clean drinking water is clean up the sewer systems. Because we're putting that water back into the ground, we're putting it in creeks and all that. That's where the water needs to be cleaned. The state of Montana likes giving lots of money to new wells and drinking water systems. But we gotta keep the water clean that's going back in the ground. I mean, that's been my pitch the last couple of times to the legislature is we gotta spend more money on cleaning up sewer systems. We're not gonna have clean drinking water, so that's where we're kind of moving forward on that. It'll be down the road a ways, I'm sure. And even if they require it, it'll be a requirement that we'll have to go through all kinds of stuff, so it'll be down the road 5 or 6 years probably. You never know, but that's what hopefully.
Is this budget available on the website?
What?
Is the budget
Oh,
available
yeah.
on town
Yep.
website?
Yep.
Okay. Sometimes I have a hard time seeing things.
This one might not be on there, the preliminary might not be on there, but I can have it put there.
Okay.
The preliminary.
So you can go through the line items.
Or I can email it directly to you.
So you can leave that. Any questions on the budget?
I had a couple of them. So one is, when we did our pre-budget meeting, you mentioned that Tony's hours were going up to 30 so he could get insurance, but you didn't say actually what he was doing with that extra 10 hours. And so I was asking about that.
Okay. So Tony has been on the job now for a while and is a lot on the job learning, so he's learning to do more and more things in the office. So that's where we're getting him up to doing speed on helping with some other stuff in the office. Also, with some of the jobs Mike is doing, he needs another guy out there with him doing some of the things. Some of the things Mike's doing, one of the things we're finding in tracking Mike's hours is Mike's not getting to spend a lot of time out in the field doing a lot of the paperwork that he does, where Tony's being trained to take some of that paperwork over in the office to finish up some of those reports and stuff. So Mike goes out and does all the testing and stuff, gets the test results, and he can enter all that stuff. So he's spending a lot of time in the office, not actually out doing some of the digs and stuff like that. And that's where we're at some of the maintenance. There's some of the maintenance in the system that needs to be done. That's kind of we've been kind of getting a little bit behind on because Mike's spending so much time in the office doing paperwork.
So then some of the salary comes out of, well, actually, I already did the water fund because he's doing that.
Yeah, water and sewer still didn't come out of water and sewer. Yeah.
And then, so who's our court clerk? So, because wasn't that what Stacy was doing, so I thought maybe that's what Tony was going to do.
He is
with
going
that.
to, he is going to pick up some of that.
Some of that,
Because
okay.
So he's-
sometimes my stack on that builds pretty high before I get a chance to get it back
Okay.
down.
So when he moves into that, then some of that money will come out of the general fund under
For the court.
municipal court.
Okay. I kind of wondered
So that's
that.
kind of hard to sometimes track in some of these things because we take a little bit out of here and there all over the place, and that's so it kind of gets a little bit hard tracking some of those things. I know one of the questions like cell phones, is like police, of course, are just police, but public works comes out of 2 or 3 different spots. So that's kind of, you see, they might have cell phones, but like public works at $15. Well, it's not that much. It's actually a little more than that, but it comes out of a different fund too, so it's in different spots. So we try to divide that up so every department's going to be equally paid for the cost of certain things.
So, and I'll mention the elephant in the room is the dog park. And I think it's kind of brought up with a lot of feelings, and so I wonder if we shouldn't do a special public meeting just to talk about whether we actually do a dog park.
Yeah.
What did you say?
I said,
Oh.
yes.
I wasn't sure if you were coughing or if you were actually
I'm
trying
not
to say something in my
coughing.
ear.
It was more of a bird.
Okay.
So, so at budget time, we come up with all kinds of ideas.
Mhm.
And we come up with dog park, splash pad, skate park, just a little buzz on that. The tribe and I are working on skate park. The tribe is going to fund it. We're still working on some stuff. Actually, I just got a call from Lands. And Mike actually just came and talked to me because he was upset with Lands didn't get a hold of us right after the last meeting. Working on some stuff. So, skate park looks like it is coming and it will be 100% funded through some different sources. And actually maintenance and all that will be funded through the tribe. The tribe is actually, through Lands, is actually looking at putting together a special maintenance department even for doing their parks and skate parks and that type of stuff. So that's all just what's going on the tribal side of it. So you look at different things. One of the other things that come up and keeps coming up, and we never have talked about it, that is a bulk water fill station.
A what?
To fill water, bulk water. So we have a lot of people coming to town,
Well, they get it, I thought at the shop.
but someone has to go do it.
Oh, gotcha,
So
okay.
someone has to go, hook up the meter,
Right.
fill them. But if you're out digging, like the other day, Mike was actually fixing a broken sewer line, and the guy comes, well, he's not gonna quit
Right.
digging to do that, so that's one of the other things that we have talked about over the years of doing is a bulk water station, which a person just pulls up, puts their money in, fills their tank, drives away. And I'm working on a quote on that too, just a ballpark number. I contacted a company that does that reasonably. So
I just think, our median income in Hot Springs in 2023 was 21,000. So we're not a rich town. About 30% of the population is 65 and over, which means and they're usually the homeowners, so they're the property tax who's paying for a lot of the stuff. And so I think when we're gonna spend some money on extra things that aren't for like the health and safety of the town, we should actually do a better job of educating, talking about it, inviting people to have conversations. Is this really where we want to spend our money? Or would we rather have gravel fill the potholes or whatever?
I agree with you 100%.
And I would
And
like to see
sometimes
that
I think
happen.
that's one of the things that a lot of people forget about why the town is incorporated. It's incorporated for those basic services, streets,
Yep,
lighting, water, sewer, and that type of stuff, police protection, fire protection, all that, and sometimes we kind of stealing money out of those things, or are we doing those adequately? Maybe we shouldn't be spending any more money for a little while till we get those funded adequately before we move out and do anything.
exactly. That's why we should have budget meetings where we discuss that, and maybe if we had more conversations, could get more citizens to actually attend and take an interest in what we're trying to do here. I'm all about making people more involved. And that's part of doing the food in the park, getting people involved, talking to them about what's going on. So when they're picking up food, they're not just getting free food, we also have conversations with everybody.
Yeah. And there are poop bags at the park. That was one of the comments I saw, to put poop bag stations in
Yes.
the park. Well, they're already there, so.
I know.
And we're getting more.
I know.
Actually, the benefactor is actually finding more, so. But there's one problem. People keep stealing them. All of them. They
All
steal
the
the whole roll.
bags, or the whole thing?
They'll put a new roll in, and 2 days later, Mark says the whole roll's done. I don't think they're pooping that much. So hopefully, whoever's taking them will get enough and quit taking them.
Or at least go down to town picking up food.
So, but I mean, those are some of those things, I know that, playground equipment in the park, or the splash pad, so there's all kinds of things, that money could be going for.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we
We
can,
need to make an adjustment in the budget anyway that I forgot, is because of that grant for the rodeo, which is also part of our parks fund. We're gonna have to put that money in the expenditure.
The 75,000
In the
grant.
grant,
yeah.
Because that money went into the general fund under miscellaneous revenue, so that it needs to go back out in expenditures in that, it's gonna be in that parks fund as well, but there'll be a line item for rodeo.
Also, I saw that Amy had a survey on Facebook, that the people looking at Facebook could check the items that they would be interested in seeing us do in town, you know, and that gets out to people all over the place. Yeah,
Yep,
maybe
so I-
more than what the audience is gonna do.
Right.
Well, maybe
And
not.
that's all part of it, is getting that information and see what people want, and then what, you know, what services, you know, is, you know, talk about water, and then the question come up to me about a bunch of different things, and I've already mentioned it to Judy, but, you know, just like, doing the spade and neuter. The town does, we had a problem, we fixed our problem by doing the spade and neuter thing. Probably gonna do a problem on this side of town, but the taxpayers of the town of Hot Springs are paying for that, and then you have people bringing their own animals that they went and got on their own, that's their responsibility, bringing it there to be done for free. And people from out of town and all that. So that's kind of the same dog park, splash tag. You know, I mean, even if we do the water fill station,
Right.
that's out of town people use it, no in-town people are
Well, the
using it.
last year, 29 of those animals were trapped feral cats. So
Right, I mean,
over
we had a
half of it
problem.
was.
Yeah, I mean, we had a
and
problem, and that's all
Right.
fine to do it because we solved the problem.
And this time, the second day of the weekend is being funded by somebody from the ARC Board of Directors, so that's why we're extending it more to the
That was
reservation.
never an agenda item to be voted on though, for the spade.
Yeah, but we're just talking about what's going on. So I mean, those are some of those things that the citizens of Hot Springs need to talk about is, you know, as we're putting in, like even the water fill station I brought up, that's benefiting everyone that lives out of town.
Well,
But they're
you know,
paying for it.
I did some research, and there was an article in the Kalispell Beacon where you mentioned you wanted to put a parking area near all the trails for tourists, and I've been racking my brain of where the hell are you talking
Oh.
about?
You're reading a really old article.
Well, that's what came up in Google.
Yeah, I come up, someone brought that back up here recently when I talked about the hippies and the,
Yeah, it's like, yeah, so
so
where
where it is, it's Skunk Alley.
Okay.
So when you go across the cattle guard, the
Right.
idea was to put a parking lot in there with a,
Map.
you know, trailhead, something like
Okay.
that. Showing all, just the roads right behind town, and then even had, you know, trifold type maps, so
Right.
people, if they want to go mountain biking or hiking or whatever, they can see which roads are
Yeah.
back. That was
Okay.
what that was.
I was just trying to figure that out when I saw it.
Yeah, that's what that was talking about,
Okay.
was to do something there, yeah,
Randy,
yes.
do you have do you have any objection to scheduling a town meeting to discuss these things?
No. No,
Will you?
yeah, we'll have one.
Preferably before the final budget.
Oh, yeah, well, we can have
That'd be
one.
good.
We'll have to find a date that works for people, maybe next week or the week after. Just have a round table.
Yeah, actually, can we do it after August 16th and 17th?
No,
Yes, before that.
probably not.
You know, unless you want to get spayed and neutered, Randy,
No, I'm against that.
Finalized first. We have to have our budget finalized before then, so.
The Bible told me to go forth and propagate. So,
Which
amen,
reminds me,
hallelujah.
I gotta go talk to Bob about that.
So, what is the, okay, well, this is the preliminary. What are the other steps that follow this?
So before we can do the final budget, first we gotta get the numbers from the state. Because we don't even know we don't even know how much we're getting.
They came yesterday, I have.
They what?
So the timeline is still
Okay.
limbo.
Oh, yeah, we might be able to do it at the September meeting.
We have to do it at the September meeting. They have to be submitted to the county by the second Tuesday in September or something like that, so.
And we've been clear into December and not had the right numbers, so. And that's all up on the state, that's not on us.
Back to the town meeting, would you consider like the senior center somewhere,
No, they don't want us there.
well, maybe why?
I don't know why, but they ran us off.
Tribal nutrition.
Why
Somewhere
can't we do it here?
it doesn't smell that good. It's not.
Well, that's just the people you're sitting by, not.
No, they smell good, thank God.
Yeah, that's what he's saying, but I talked to Patty, and she said, yeah, the cost of holding a meeting there, this is just not appointed one exactly for what purpose, so it's still $25. You can rent the senior
Quite a
center.
deal. Yeah, it's quite a deal. And it's like got tables and it's got,
We'll get a day plan to get out there for everybody and a spot. So
would you consider the senior center?
we'll talk to them and see what they say to us, see if it's available.
Maybe someone nicer can ask.
Since I'm on the board,
Someone,
All
yeah,
right.
he's just one though of a board. He has to ask us.
I will talk to the people in charge. which is
Yes,
Donna
yeah,
Johnson.
I was saying, the board isn't in charge over there, I know that, I know better than that.
Well, they do have a monthly board meeting, so.
Right, but I know there's a couple old ladies that kind of run the place.
Well,
What do you call
let's
it?
hear that. Goodness, my money.
Okay, any other questions on the budget? If there's not, we'll move into we'll close the public hearing